When people show you who they are, believe them. What we've seen from Blake Lively is her showing, you know, who she really is.
Blake Lively is in serious trouble as Justin Baldoni attorneys have recently released some fresh receipts. Blake was alleging $300 million in missed profits and prospective income for being falsely labeled as a mean girl by Justin's legal camp. Nevertheless, her own words have now triggered the whole lawsuit advancing against her. Fair to say her entire plan has failed. Showing what I'm stating for a time period that the mean girl label wasn't a fabrication, it was just the reality coming out.
We all deep down knew that Blake Lively was a mean girl. Like it's well documented. Everybody's seen those.
So at this stage, we've got all this legal drama blowing up in her face. But if y'all want to find out whether Blake Lively is mean or not, then let's take a look at this old clip which you may have seen a dozen times already.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
Rather of just telling thank you, or even just appreciating the journalist's compliment, she just showed her real nature. I mean, turning her chair away from the reporter, declining to make any eye contact with her for the rest of the entire interview, and only talking to the other actress in the room will not make you look modest at all. And see what? She did the same thing again. This time it was an interview from 2017 for a movie called All I See Is You. The interviewer, Music, was being respectful. He asked her what kind of acting roles she wanted to do in the next 5 years, but instead of just answering the question like a typical professional person, she said this.
Now to try everything, I mean, what is the next
What does
5
that
years?
mean?
The interviewer was visibly puzzled by her reaction. So he attempted to explain what he meant, but she firmly interrupted him, telling him that she actually does sing in the movie. She even stared at him with absolute pure disgust and asked if he had even watched the movie before coming to talk to her. When the man insisted up and down that he had seen her movie, she looked off camera at her team and announced that they were going to give him a surprise quiz at the end of the interview.
If you
I
didn't think you can sing,
I sang
but,
in this movie.
well,
Did
yeah,
you see the movie?
I did see the movie, but I mean,
We're gonna give you a pop quiz.
there
at
can
the
be a
end.
pop quiz every minute of it.
Yeah.
It's a complicated pop quiz though.
Yeah, it
with
would be
Mark's
complicated.
images.
Like what? Why would you intimidate a reporter with a pop quiz? He didn't do anything wrong. He asked a normal question and tried to explain it when she got puzzled. That's literally his role. But she treated him like he had personally offended her by existing and doing his job properly. These videos blew the internet for a reason. Everyone could see it with their own eyes. She didn't need the evidence presented by Justin Baldoni's team to make her look like what she really is.
I'm still a fan of Blake Lively. I think recheck your decision on that because she's not very nice to the common people.
The attitude she displayed on the filming of It Ends With Us wasn't some new reaction to working with an inexperienced director. It was just who she had always been. The trend had been there for years, and the evidence was right there on the online for anyone who bothered to look.
Was always known as somebody that was difficult to work with. Those rumors were always following.
At this, you're likely believing this entire situation cannot become any further humiliating for Blake Lively. But my dear bestie, it really can, and it does as everything from here on just gets worse and worse for her. Reason due her role of portraying the part of a freelance employee who was being mistreated by her director while she was doing something that completely contradicted everything she was saying in public.
He is trying to ruin the life of a man who did nothing to her other than cast her in his movie and try to make her happy. And yet there is no making Blake Lively happy. That's what seems.
Blake was eager to be listed as a producer on the movie, like not just a normal actor. She wanted her name up there alongside the producers. Now, to earn that title from the Producers Guild of America, she had to write an official letter laying out exactly how much work she put into the production. And this is where things got bad for her. In that letter, she basically documented how she controlled just about every single aspect of the film. I'm talking about hiring and firing staff, negotiating to move entire filming locations closer to her own house, rewriting the script, running meetings with the studio executives, managing the editing team, and even dictating how the marketing was going to go. Most importantly, in her own words, she wrote that Justin Baldoni was not her boss or her employer. He was just a partner in all creative and logistical concerns. So basically, while she was publicly claiming she was some helpless actress being treated differently by her director, the same director also allowed her to take control of the movie. Well, I really don't have any comments on this. And it's tough for my small brain to understand her statement. But anyway, a federal judge saw what she was doing, and on April 2nd, he used her own words to take this decision.
The vast majority of it, she had 13 claims in her lawsuit. 10 have been dismissed, the big ones being all the claims for defamation and also the claims about on the.
So at this stage, I believed her legal team must have learned to be more cautious with their remarks, like, after all these disasters, they must have stopped looking desperate, but happy to say they proved me wrong, as her team just kept digging the hole deeper with her main accusation falling apart. Blake's attorneys got desperate to find some kind of smoking gun. They needed something to prove that Justin Baldoni and his team were running some kind of organized smear campaign against her. So they came up with this idea to submit a secretly recorded phone call to federal court as their big piece of evidence here.
Interesting, because you work with so many people, and almost everybody's nice. And then there's Blake, who's she's totally different than everyone else.
Sorry.
The recording was made by this director named Claire Ayub. And here's the first issue with that. She wasn't even involved with the It Ends With Us movie. She worked on some totally different old Wayfair project called Empire Waste. But still, Claire claimed Justin was rude to her once without actually providing any real evidence of this alleged mistreatment. And aide for Steve Sarowitz, who's the co-founder of Wayfair Studios, called her to set up a meeting. Claire thought they were going to pressure her into staying quiet, and without telling Steve anything, she covertly recorded the audio call, which is where things really went off the rails, because here's the thing about California. It's a two-party consent state when it comes to recording phone calls. That means it's not legal to record a conversation unless every single person involved knows they're being recorded and consents to it. Steve had zero idea he was being taped, and he didn't consent to anything.
I don't know that we won't have to go into court. Sure. I just know that for right now, it seems like détente. And then if they persist and they push to the limits, then we'll go to court. And then it's all on me. Then I'll be working harder.
So by sending this unlawfully acquired covert recording to a judge, her legal team essentially showed that they were willing to break the law just to try and win their case. It made them look dumb and completely unreliable in many people's eyes, including me. Like, if you're going to break the law to get evidence, it clearly suggests you don't have any proper evidence to support your case. And you know what? The recording didn't even prove what they wanted it to prove. Her lawyers tried to use this chopped-up segment of the tape, where Steve Sarowitz mentioned there would be body when he was done. They tried to make it sound like he was some kind of bad person planning to destroy Blake Lively's public image. Typical fear-mongering tactic. But Wayfair Studios requested that the full tape be played out loud in court so everyone could actually hear what was really said. And when the full recording came out, the truth absolutely crushed their narrative. First of all, the tape proved that Claire Ayub did almost all the talking. I mean, we're talking about serious domination of the conversation here. Stats showed that Claire talked for 68.5% of the entire call, while Steve only talked for 31.5% of the call. She basically just kept shoving leading questions at him, trying desperately to push him into saying something bad.
In that, or some of the comments I see, or on the flip, they'll say that Blake sold her cut back to, and I was like, that's not how it works. You own the footage. Like, that's not how it, and people will say it so confidently. And they'll be like, yeah, because they bankrolled the movie. And I'm like, that's not how that's not how it works.
Right, but we just sit there quietly and let them think what they want. And, ultimately we're not going to, but Blake and Ryan are billionaires. I don't think they.
When Claire Ayub kept pressing him on whether he was going to sue Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, Steve simply explained that he was going to protect his company interests.
Never get me to that point, and I'll make it worth their while, because I'm going to spend a lot of money to make sure the studio is protected. But I don't think we'll go.
Do that sound like a covert plot to ruin someone? Or does that sound like exactly what any business proprietor would say when they're being threatened with a lawsuit? Because to me, that sounds like completely ordinary behavior. You have the right to defend yourself in court. That's not a crime. That's not a smear music campaign. That's simply business. Also, on the tape, Steve spent a good chunk of time just talking about how genuinely great Justin Baldoni remains as a person.
People love Justin, and they still love Justin.
Yeah, that's good.
And if you meet Justin, how could you not love him?
This entire conversation showed a desperate legal team attempting to deceive a man, recording him illegally, and then chopping up his statements to mislead a judge today. It was another huge victory for Justin Baldoni and another completely humiliating moment. Music for the opposing side. But the humiliation only intensified their fury as they realized they were losing control. Their desperation reached a boiling point, leading to a shocking escalation. Now, what they did was they sent out this enormous wave of federal subpoenas to massive phone and internet company. I'm talking about AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, AOL, Cloudflare, essentially every major company that handles your phone and internet data. They also targeted this PR crisis consultant named Jed Wallace. But crucially, they demanded from these companies that I mentioned to hand over literally every single call, text message, data log, and real-time location tracking for anyone connected to Justin Baldoni. Over the past 2.5 years, Baldoni's lawyer, Mitchell Schuster, called these demands unreasonable and pointed out that they were invading the privacy of family members and friends who literally had nothing to do with this movie at all. He reminded Music, the court, quote, "This is civil litigation, not a criminal prosecution, and the Lively parties are not the FBI. Like, you cannot make this stuff up." They were acting like they were a kind of government agency with unlimited power to investigate whoever they wanted. But here's where it gets really, really ugly. The entire planning didn't just stop with going after big phone company to stop people from making fun of her on the internet. Her lawyer sent federal legal threats to small, independent YouTube creators. And get this, one of the YouTube channels they dragged into federal court only had 38 music subscribers. 38, that's basically nobody. That's like your grandma and your cousin, and perhaps one random person you don't even know. PR crisis expert Eric Schiffer criticized this strategy. He said, quote, "Dragging micro-creators into court over chit-chat is nuclear overkill that screams, music, bully, not brilliant." Hauling a channel with 38 subscribers into federal court is the Puerto Rico equivalent of clubbing baby seals for sport. I mean, you really cannot describe it any better than that, really.
Very start, this case was about somebody being wrongfully accused, and that's
So yeah, before all these receipts were dropped, things were looking pretty bad for our boy Justin Baldoni. The internet had already decided he was guilty. The press was running with the same narrative, and Hollywood was basically giving him the silent treatment. It honestly felt like his career as a director was cooked, but then Justin hired himself a lawyer named Brian Friedman, best in the business, who only deals in facts, receipts, and clear evidence. The second Brian Friedman got involved, he made it very clear that his client was not going to accept whatever story the media wanted to tell about him. He put out a statement that basically said, hey, we've got real-time documents and video that show a completely different story than what has been said and cherry-picked by the media. I know most lawyers in these situations try to release safe statements, maybe leak something to a friendly outlet, but Brian Friedman, he basically walked into the ring and said, we're not hiding, we've got everything and we're ready to show it. He basically told the press that since documents don't lie, but people do, the upcoming depositions would be super enlightening. In other words, he was telling Blake Lively that once people had to testify under oath, she would have to find a nice place to hide. Now here's where things got really interesting. Baldoni's team did something I've genuinely never seen before in Hollywood. They created an actual public website called lawsuitinfo.com. On this website, they uploaded this massive 168-page document called the Timeline of Relevant Event, and I'm talking about the actual starting point of the entire project, including emails from January 2019 where Baldoni first reached out to Colleen Hoover, the author of the book the movie was based on. And the best part, Hoover herself told Baldoni that he was, quote, the right person to make this movie back in April 2019. So the project was always his. He built it from the ground up before Blake and her hubby tried to take over his project. Now, when Justin Baldoni's lawyers published all those unedited communications for the entire world to read, Blake's team couldn't twist anything anymore because the full conversation was right there in black and white for everyone involved.
Yet another, crisis in LA, and I'm here. So I don't think there's any coincidence. But my take on what the judge did was the judge simplified.
Okay, music. So I don't know about y'all, but for me, one of the most striking claims that came out during this whole thing was when tabloids started reporting that Justin had gone behind Blake Lively's back to ask her personal trainer how much she weighed. Everyone framed this as if it was appearance shaming a new mom on his movie set. The reason being, everyone had already decided on. So nobody really stopped to ask questions like, wait, why would a director do that? What would even be his motive here? But the receipts Justin and his team released told an entirely different story. The text messages showed that he suffers from a very serious back injury. Like, this isn't a small thing. This is a clinical condition that affects his daily life. And in the movie, there are scenes where he has to lift Blake up. He asked about her weight for his own safety. Music, hurting his spine, or accidentally dropping her is something our boy didn't want to happen. Also, here's the fact that really makes this whole thing wild. The documents proved that Blake Lively knew about his back injury as well. She literally wrote text messages acknowledging exactly why he was asking about her weight. She knew he wasn't making fun of her body, but she still let the media print the story that he was some kind of fat shamer. Think about that for a second and tell me in the comments if this behavior falls under being mean or not, because from here, the situation gets even worse for her side as the documents have exposed even more contradiction. When she told him she was feeling sick all the time, he didn't ignore her or act like he didn't care. Instead, he reached out to doctors himself and asked them to put her on a probiotic routine because he truly wanted her to feel better on set. He didn't just give her advice and leave it at that. He actually reached out personally to medical professionals, music, to make sure she was being taken care of. Does that sound like the behavior of someone who is trying to make a new mother feel bad about her body? Because that sounds like the exact opposite to me. And now, let me get to the part that really shows you how this whole thing worked, because here's the thing. Ryan Reynolds knew the fat-shaming story was completely fake. He knew Justin Baldoni only asked about her weight because of his back injury. He had all the information he needed to know this was a lie. And what did he do with that knowledge? Did he maybe try to calm things down? Did he maybe tell his wife to let the whole thing go? Well, of course not. What he actually did was that he picked up the phone to say some very severe words to Justin Baldoni. Legal documents revealed that Ryan called Justin and said things that the actor wouldn't even repeat the words to anyone except his own wife. This really tells you everything you need to know about how this whole thing operated. They made up a false story. Music, they knew it was fake, and then they used it to psychologically devastate the target. Well, that's what you do when you're trying to put someone down, and you don't care how dirty you have to get to do it. What this whole thing boils down to is that Blake Lively, Music, and her team were willing to go to extreme lengths to win this case, and even use false stories just to psychologically devastate Justin Baldoni. But the receipts don't lie, and they ended up exposing the truth. Now that all the facts are finally out, we can look at the full picture clearly. So let me know, do y'all think about the overall evidence that was dropped? Which part of the receipt, the recording, the subpoenas against micro-creators, or Blake's own producer letter satisfied you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and I will see y'all in the next video.